Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, April 28th, 2025. I will call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. First item on the agenda item 1.1, Land Acknowledgement. The town of Coaldale acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot peoples of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot peoples past, present, and future while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The town of Coaldale is also home to the Métis District 1 foothills. Agenda item 1.2, conflict of interest declaration, pecuniary and non-pecuniary. Are there any in the room this afternoon? We also have Councillor Avery. He is remoted in so he can participate in today's meeting. Councillor Avery, do you have a declaration of pecuniary or non-pecuniary? Councillor Avery, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Do you have a declaration pecuniary or non-pecuniary?
I do not.
Thank you. Moving on to acceptance of the agenda, agenda item 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion to accept the agenda for April 28th, 2025 as presented? Councillor Pickering makes that motion. Any more questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Avery, you're going to have to zoom in every time we have a motion. Yeah, we can't see that though. Moving on to adoption of the previous minutes for the regular council meeting minutes from April 7th, 2025. Were there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Deputy Mayor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Under item 9-2, subsection 112-2025, if we could just have the accurate amount recorded of 279,603.
One more time, please.
If we could have the correct number recorded under item 112-2025 of 279,603.
Thank you. Our municipal clerk has captured that. Any other amendments? See none, could I get someone to make a motion that council adopts the regular council meeting minutes from April 7th, 2025 as amended? Deputy Mayor Reis makes that motion. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Yes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4.1, delegation by appointment. We have the 2024 audited financial statements, and from Avail CPA, we have Nadine Granson and our Chief Financial Officer and Deputy CAO Kyle Beauchamp presenting. When either of you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thanks and good evening, Council. So for tonight, we do have the audited 2024 financial statements. With me is Nadine Granson from Avail CPA. So Avail is the auditor for the town of Coaldale. They have audited these financial statements and gave their opinion. First, I'll briefly go through the financial statements and then turn things over to Nadine for her comments after that. So back at the April 7th meeting, Council received the Q4 financial update. Explain the variances between budget to the actual results. So happy to present that information presented at the April 7th meeting is still reflective in these financial statements. There was no changes from that date. So with that in mind, I'll just briefly go through some of these pages. As we get into the meat and potatoes, so the page on the screen here, this is the consolidated statement of financial position. So this is essentially the balance sheet in layman's terms for the town of Coaldale. So this schedule here does show financial assets. So this is what the town owns. So financial assets owned, such as cash, accounts receivable, investments, totaling just under $27 million for the year. And financial liabilities, so these are amounts owed by the town of Coaldale, just under $39 million. That does include long-term debt and asset retirement obligations, which are long-term liabilities. And non-financial assets, so those are essentially everything that the town can't flip or turn into cash immediately. So capital assets, so that's like our utility infrastructure, roads, lighting, so and so. Total net investment by the town of Coaldale, again, throughout the history of the town, is $170 million. So if we kind of added everything up for accounting-wise, the town of Coaldale has a accumulated surplus of $157 million through all of our assets invested in the town throughout the year, or the accumulation of time. The next schedule here is the consolidated statement of operations. So this is essentially the income statement. So we had revenues coming in of $25.6 million and expenses coming out of $22.5 million. Once we add in funding for capital grants, the town had accumulated surplus of $14 million for the year. So this accumulated surplus of $14 million doesn't mean that the town made $14 million, because that does get distributed to fund reserves, and long-term debt, and capital assets. On the schedule here, when we talk about reserves, it's funds available for the town for future capital expenditures or operational events as they may arise. At the end of the year, the town of Coaldale had net reserves of $10.8 million. At the beginning of the year, we had reserves of $13.5 million. So we did spend about $2.6 million in the reserves. The depletion of those reserves were largely due to capital projects previously approved in the capital budget. So every year for reserves, we do try to put more money into reserves. But again, they are there to be spent on capital when needed. So at the end of the year, we had net reserves of $10.8 million. And this schedule shows where the capital assets for the town have been allocated. So we had invested just under $19 million, I believe closer to $20 million in capital assets for the year. So for a town of our size, investing $20 million in capital assets, I think by everybody's account here, it was a fairly busy past year. And this just shows that with that, we had over $20 million invested into the town. So another good busy year. And I won't go into the notes of the financial statements, but these notes are fairly informative too. If there's any further questions that a user of the financial statements has, the notes does provide additional detail onto the various items of the financial statements. One item I will point out is our long-term debt. So our long-term debt percentage, the town of Coaldale has used 40% of the long-term debt that we are allowed under the Municipal Government Act. This is decreased from 53% from the previous year. It's kind of all I wanted to touch base on the financial statements. Again, not much specific detail because we didn't have much change from the last council meeting. But before I turn it over to Nadine at Avail, was there any questions from town council?
Thank you. I'll open it up to members of council. Any questions or comments? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Kyle, if I may. I just noticed a note in on page 19, which speaks to note number 9. Let me see here, and I just was curious as to you were speaking to emphasis of matter. We draw attention to note 9 to the financial statements, which describes the changes in estimates related to asset retirement obligations. Our opinion is not modified in respect to this matter. Do you have anything further to that, or is that something that we need to highlight or address?
Yeah, so in the audit report there, so that'll be touched base by Nadine from Avail here.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Avery, I just want to make sure that you don't have a question or comment.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. One more opportunity. Questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain a motion that council approve the...
Sorry, Mayor. We're not concluded the presentation yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no questions on the financial statements, I will turn it over to Nadine to go through the audit findings here.
All right, so I am going to report on the audit report. So we come out and we bug Kyle and his team for 2-3 weeks, and you get a 2-page report. But basically, what it is, it's our audit opinion. We go through the financial statements and we make sure that everything is in order and that everything, all our testing works out and all the internal controls are in place. So we do that, and then we issue the audit report. So can we go back to the audit report? So basically, the first couple of paragraphs is the main important part of the audit report. That's your clean audit opinion. That means we didn't find anything in the financial statements that were materially misstated during the year. I will refer to the emphasis of matter note. As you remember last year, asset retirement obligation came in, and we had to do a prior period adjustment. So that's the estimate for retiring assets that have some kind of liability attached to them. And we did set up the amounts in 2023 with the 2022 adjusted as well. And we're just indicating there that we noted that there are still asset retirement obligations. They're based on estimates, our best estimates that we can give at this time. And we're just referring that, just remember that those are estimates and they can change at any time. Okay, but it doesn't change our opinion. We're still issuing that clean audit opinion. And the rest of the audit report just runs through what our responsibility is to the audit and what the management's responsibility to the audit is. You can scroll. Okay, perfect. So this runs through all our responsibilities here, and then we issue the clean audit opinion based on that. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions by council? Thank you.
All right. So there's 2 letters I have to run through as part of our audit. One is the management letter and one is the post-audit letter. So, okay. We'll do the shorter management letter first. I don't even know if it says management letter on it, does it? It probably doesn't. It's just a 1-pager. Well, we can start with this one. That's okay. Leave this one out. So this is a post-audit letter. When we start our audit, we send a pre-audit letter to management and council, and we say this is how we're going to prepare our audit. And then after the audit is done, we're required to supply information to council on how the audit went. So I'll start on the matters to be communicated. So as we do your audit, we go through all your internal controls and we do all our testing and we look at all the numbers and support for those numbers. If there was something that we noted that there was a deficiency in the internal controls when we did our testing and our walkthroughs, we would report that to the board, and that is or to the council, and that is reported in our management letter, which I'll touch on later. I always have to bring up the fun fact of illegal acts and fraud. An audit isn't designed to go searching for illegal acts and fraud, but what we do is the way that we set up our audit and our procedures is that we look at the internal controls and we do it on a random basis, so that if something came to our attention, we'd be able to bring that forward to the council. And we're happy to note that we didn't find any illegal acts of fraud during our audit. We are also obliged to let council know if there were any disagreements between management and ourselves as auditors, and I'm happy to say that there were no disagreements within the audit with management. The other thing that I have to disclose is if there's any emerging issues, and this has been pretty clear the last few years, which has been nice, but there's a large change that's coming through on our public sector accounting board on the way we report financial information of a municipality. And this is going to be effective fiscal years beginning April 1st, 2026. So that will not affect you until December 31st, 2026. So 2025, your statements will look the same. 2026, there will be major changes to the way your statements look. And some of the key proposed changes are to separate liabilities into financial and non-financial. The statement of financial position or your balance sheet will be changed. It usually has assets, liabilities, net debt, and then it comes into capital assets and inventory, and then down to your equity. But it'll be almost laid out a little bit differently, almost like a not-for-profit would be laid out. So this happened with our public school divisions several years ago. They followed PSAB and then they moved to a more not-for-profit format. Municipalities are following that as well. So there'll be a bunch of changes in the statements, but we'll help management deal with all those changes. So that's your post-audit letter. Any questions there?
Thank you. Any questions, comments for our presenter?
We have one more letter, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, and then I'll stop talking, I promise. So this is the management letter. So again, we said that we look through your internal controls. If there's anything that would help the town be more effective or more efficient or control the risk that they're facing, we would present that in the management letter. And we're happy to report that there were no management letter points for the 2024 year end. And at this time, I would just like to thank Kalen and his team for all their help with the audit. This is one of the best audits that we do all year long. So we're appreciative of that and thank you for that. Okay. Any questions on the audit at all? The audit report, any of the letters that I went through?
Thank you. I'll open it up again to members of council. Questions, comments? Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kyle, were these letters, were they part of our agenda package or were they separate, or how does that work?
Yeah, they're not generally, they're presented to council. They're generally not presented like in the public form of the agenda. We did get them out. We did with the deadlines. We were late to get them into the agenda, so I'll be happy to share these with council after.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions in person or online, I will request now if someone would entertain making a motion that council approve the 2024 audited financial statements as presented. Councillor Chapman makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Councillor Avery?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Nadine, thank you very much for your hard work on this. Kyle, you as well, and your team. This will be the last time we get to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's no curveball still. This is your last chance to kind of stump the Schwab, right? So, yeah, thank you.
We appreciate all the hard work you've been doing for us over the years. Moving on, thank you, Nadine. Moving on to business arising from the minutes. We have agenda item 6.1, the 2025 capital budget amendment. And again, we have our Chief Financial Officer and Deputy CAO Kyle Beauchamp presenting. Kyle, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so with the year end essentially now completed, when we do budget back in the winter, so last like November, December, we do make several estimates based on how we project the year end is coming in, where funds are, and where the actual capital projects are. So now what we're doing now that's all tidied up is we're looking at our capital budget that council did approve, and there are some adjustments that are needed to bring in funds that were not spent into this year's budget to kind of finish these projects off. So kind of the action items that I have as part of the amendment listed on the screen. So the first one being the batting cage. This was one that council did approve as a contingent funding item. So we do have $40,000 in committed funding received through donations. So we'd like to add that in as a confirmed funding amount. The Civic Square Phase 3 outdoor space and the Highway 3 and Land O'Lakes Drive pedestrian crossing. These were projects that were included in the previous year's budget, but still have a little carryover funding left to wrap the project up in 2025. So we're just looking to carry over the leftover funds for that those two projects to 2025. Number 4, the alley rebuilt program for $75,000, and number 8, the sewer relining project for $200,000. These were both items included in our operating budget in previous years, but based on accounting standards and how these should be classified, we're just looking to move them out of the operating budget and into the capital project. So there's no change in dollars asked there. It's just kind of a administrative move there. Finally, the Rehoboth pathway, the water reservoir, and the sanitary trunk line. Those are projects in which we're just looking to adjust the funding sources. So no change in the actual cost for any of these. Once the year end is done and we know how much grant funding we have left available and what our capacity and reserves are, we're just looking to move some of these around to ensure we have the most efficient spending of the budget. And the final last point, number 6, the lagoon liner repairs. So this is a project that we had earmarked funding previously for $120,000. That is from the lagoon project from previous years. And again, that's one that we're just looking to carry over into the 2025 budget. So to summarize all these, there's no additional dollar amount asked from this amended budget, just some more administrative requirement to move some of these carry forward fundings from the previous year into 2025. With that, be happy to take any questions from council.
Thank you, Kyle. I'll open up to members of council. Questions, comments? Seeing none online as well. Could I get some? Go ahead, Councillor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I don't answer this question correctly, just let me know. But so when we had the 30,000 earmarked, that was just us kind of guessing on what we thought funding might accumulate in 2025, or if we had any surplus we could move there. And then through the good work from our staff, we were able to fully realize the $40,000. So that's now $40,000 in committed funding. That's kind of in its own nest egg that's allocated just for that project. So it's not taking funding from any other source. It's just new funding that we've we're kind of estimating we're going to receive, but we didn't want to like, count our chickens before the eggs hatch kind of thing. Now that we know it's there, just looking to firm that up. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Open up to members of council. Any more questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council approve the 2025 to 2029 capital plan as amended? Councillor Beekman makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Councillor Avery?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Moving on to agenda item 6.2. We have our CAO, Kalen Hastings, doing a staff report regarding appointment to the Chinook Arch Library Board. Kalen, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to request that Council make a resolution reappointing a member of Council to the Chinook Library Board. The previous appointed member at the last organizational meeting of Council in October was Councillor Saylor, and that's why the recommendation here is for the resolution to reappoint the councillor who is already appointed to the Chinook Arch. So this was flagged by the Chinook Arch CEO, who had reached out over email asking that a reappointment be made. And so I'm presenting this to council as a housekeeping matter, that Councillor Saylor be reappointed or some other alternate decided by council.
Thank you. I'll open it up to members of council. Any questions, comments? Councillor Reis, or Deputy Mayor Reis, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to our CAO. I'm just looking for some clarification as to why we have to reappoint someone that we just appointed 6 months ago to that committee.
The main reason for this is pursuant to their procedural bylaw. Given the number of meetings that were held in 2024 and 2025, a member of council has to meet certain attendance requirements in order for the name to stand and be eligible. And over the course of 2 different years, they wanted a motion to reappoint somebody from council for the 2025 because of that lapse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Could I get someone to entertain, make a motion that council reappoint Councillor Saylor to the Chinook Regional Library Board? Councillor Pickering? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. Moving on to agenda item 7.1 under bylaws and policies. Again, we have our Chief Financial Officer, Kyle Beauchamp, presenting on the 2025 property tax bylaw 917-C-04-25. Kyle, whenever you're ready.
Okay, again, thanks, Mayor and Council. So we do have the property tax bylaw. First reading presented 917-C-04-25. So we are just presenting first reading here. We would come back for second and third reading to Council at the next meeting in May. So we do have the property tax draft bylaw presented, again, with the supplemental tax information of how the projected tax rate would change and the impact per $100,000 of assessed residential and non-residential property in the staff report. I won't go through the figures specifically, but I'll be happy to take any questions from council. Just a note that when we do present second and third reading in May, we do anticipate a slight change into the figures. It would be very minimal. Once that is updated for Lethbridge County's approved property tax bylaw for the annex properties in town. That being said, I'd be happy to take any questions from council on presented first reading of this bylaw.
Thank you. I'll open it up again to members of council. Any questions, comments? Councillor Chapman. Councillor Chapman, then Councillor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Kyle. I'm going to just throw this out there because I think the education portion of the property tax bylaw is sort of conditional on what our assessment becomes. And so what the Alberta education has to know first is what our assessment's going to be. And so that's what we have to submit to them. Is that how that works?
So the province and same with Green Acres through their requisition, they use something called equalized assessment. So their equalized assessment is essentially our assessment a year behind. So when they do their calculations to see how much they're going to collect, they send us a bill, and I think this year you can see the bill is just over $4 million, just under 4.1 million. They're actually using essentially our assessment from last year, right? So it's always kind of a year behind for that way.
Thank you.
Councillor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor.
We will have one that we will present to council that we can review and go forward. We don't have it yet. There was discussion about possibly receiving some commentary from the GOA, so the government of Alberta, that they were sending out. So we were going to look at reviewing that to see if there was information there that we wanted to incorporate in our letter before we had the opportunity to discuss it with council.
Thank you.
And just further to Councillor Avery's comments at a Mayors and Reeves meeting last month, that came up, and I'll reach out to them tomorrow morning to see where they're at with that letter. They did say they were going to be sending out a draft copy to municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provide first reading of property tax bylaw 917-C-04-25 as presented? Councillor Saylor makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7.2, borrowing bylaw 919-B-04-25 regarding first reading. Again, we have our CFO, Kyle Beauchamp, presenting. Kyle, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. So the borrowing bylaw that we do have here is first reading for the sewer relining project. So you do see on the agenda package, there are two borrowing bylaws for this project on the agenda. The one I am presenting is for a long-term debt. So in this long-term debt would essentially would be a 10-year loan to fund $1,546,000 of the sanitary relining project, totaling $5.1 million. So we are presenting first reading here. If council does pass first reading, it will be advertised according to the MGA advertising requirements and then be presented to council after that for a second and third reading. We are requesting to have the borrowing bylaw completed, but the actual timing of when the town utilizes the funds from this bylaw will likely not be later till the end of 2025 or early 2026, just based on the construction timeline for this project. Be happy to take any questions from council on this.
Thank you, Kyle. Any questions, comments for our presenter? Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion that council provide? Oh, Deputy Mayor Reis, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor. Due to Kyle. So this borrowing bylaw, we're just going to pass the first reading of it before having the open house next week?
So the borrowing bylaw, sorry, I'm not aware of the open house, but the requirements of the borrowing bylaw, when it is for long-term capital, we do have to advertise it to the public. So it'll be advertised for 2 weeks in the Sunny South News. And that way it does allow residents for an opportunity to provide any commentary that they have on the bylaw. If they have any comments or thoughts, whatever, they will submit them to myself, and then I would present those to council before you pass second and third reading. So I'm not sure on the open house. That may be something else that I'm not aware of.
Okay, thank you.
We're having that information session next Wednesday night regarding that construction.
Okay. Yeah. So there's nothing requiring, like, we could have, I don't know if there's a desire to have this bylaw noted or whatnot, the open house, but there's nothing required under the MGA for an open house for this.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor. So if somebody has something to say, can it be passed along to you after the open house then?
Definitely. Yep.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
You can pass my contact if anybody has it, and I can compile those.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you. One more time, any questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone entertained making a motion that council provide first reading of borrowing bylaw 919-B-04-25 regarding the sanitary trunk line as presented? Councillor Saylor makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7.3 regarding borrowing bylaw 920-B-04-25 regarding, we have our CFO, Kyle Beauchamp presenting on that one, and this is regarding passing of all three readings. Kyle, whenever you're ready.
Thanks. So this borrowing bylaw is slightly different. So as I scroll here, so this chart here that has the numbers on it, so you can see the total project is 5.1 million, and what the numbers above are essentially identifying how we're going to pay for it. Where is this coming from? And you can see the amount for $1,343,000. That's funds that we are expecting to collect from future offsite levies from development that has been currently, or that's been approved, that's in the works. Those offsite levies aren't expected to be collected anywhere from now to the next 5 to 6 years. So what we're doing is presenting a short-term financing option for this. So it would be 5 years or less. And any funds borrowed under this would be repaid once those offsite levies are collected. The reason we are separating out the two sources of borrowing or debt is because under the bylaw that you just passed, the long-term one, if we take out a 10-year loan, the town is essentially locked into what interest is going to cost on that 10-year loan because the interest rates are locked in, they don't change. If we do that with this source and we receive these offsite levies in 2 years and we want to repay that debt off early, there is a large penalty for repayment of that. So what we do is we just do essentially a short-term line of credit. The interest rate on that is a little higher than what you would receive under that long-term borrowing, but you can repay that debt off as these levies are collected. So we're not locked into interest on this loan for a long period of 10 years. So under the MGA, this bylaw would be in accordance with section 257. So it is for capital funding that's 5 years or less. And under the MGA, it doesn't require any public advertising. So we have presented council with the option for all three readings today. But again, if there is a desire to advertise this in accordance with the previous bylaw, we can do that. But again, there's no requirement to do that under the MGA for this type of loan. Be happy to take any questions from council on this bylaw.
Thank you. I'll open up for any questions, comments by council. See none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provide first reading of borrowing bylaw 920-B-04-25 regarding the sanitary trunk line bridge financing of off-site levies as presented? Councillor Beekman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. And could I get someone out to entertain making a motion that council provides second reading of borrowing bylaw 920-B-04-25 regarding the sanitary trunk line bridge financing of off-site levies? Councillor Pickering makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. And now if someone wants to consider making a motion that council provide unanimous consent to hold all three readings in one meeting for borrowing bylaw 920-B-04-25 regarding the sanitary trunk line bridge financing of off-site levies. Deputy Mayor Reis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. And then finally, someone to make a motion that council provide third and final reading of borrowing bylaw 920-B-04-25 regarding the sanitary trunk line bridge financing of off-site levies. Councillor Chapman makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Moving on to agenda item 7.4. We have our municipal clerk, Lana Antony, presenting on a council procedural bylaw amendment 921-GE-04-25. Lana, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I'm here today to present the council procedural bylaw for amendment and all three readings, should council approve. The council procedural bylaw provides regulation to the proceedings of council and committees, and the amendments that are in the report today changes formally the live streaming requirement that was announced with regards to Bill 20 from the Municipal Government Act. The town of Coaldale has been live streaming since 2018, so remote participation has been an option for anyone participating in a meeting, whether to watch or to be an active participant. However, the Bill 20 makes a formal recognition of that, and so it is a requirement for municipalities to address that prior to April 30th. And once approved by council, we will update this information on our website, as well as make it available on our Let's Connect Coaldale and any notices that go out regarding public hearings. While we had the book open on the council procedural bylaw, there was also a couple of other small amendments that were noted regarding the scheduling of regular council meetings, that there are only one in July and in December, and also reference updating His Majesty the King, which is referenced in the council procedural bylaw. So I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on any of the amendments presented.
Thank you. I'll open it up to members of council. Any questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Reis and then Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn, through to Lana. Thank you for the hard work you put into amending Bill 20 towards the procedural council bylaw. I have a couple questions for you. So on item 4.4 on the procedural bylaw, oh, I just have to pull it up. 1 second. Subsection C.
Okay.
It says that the mayor the appointment of deputy mayor or roster of deputy mayor for the following year. But then if you go down further to 8.1, it says that the mayor shall assign each council member with an equal 8-month term during a 4-year council term. Hold office of deputy mayor, each council should. So there's just a contradiction there, and I'm just wondering if we're gonna find a way to sort of make that a little more streamlined or easy to understand. And also the wording there too, on 4.4 where it says for the following year, maybe it should be for the term.
Thank you for bringing that forward. The past 2 terms of council, it was council's decision to divide the full 4-year council term into equal segments so that each councillor has a turn at the deputy mayor appointment. But I'm happy to make an amendment to that to bring back to make it more clear. Would it be council's interest of approving regarding the public hearing portion on this, because that is a requirement for April 30th, and I can bring back a further amendment at the May meeting?
So is there any urgency to get this done today?
I actually was with my peer group last week, and there was speakers that were there representing the municipal affairs, and a question did come up of, because there was quite a flurry in the room about other municipalities that were not going to have this in effect. The suggestion was that should we have a public hearing prior to this being approved, whether or not it was April 30th or not, that it was not recommended to ensure that we were adhering to the requirements. So we do not have a public hearing scheduled in between now and May 8, so that we could pass that then if that is council's wish.
So I just want to make sure we get this right. So what you're saying is we can table this until May 8th then?
That is correct, and because we do not have a public hearing scheduled in between that time.
Okay, so then I'll have Deputy Mayor Reis sit down with you and explain again what she's looking at, and then we could maybe share that with all the council so we have a clear understanding before it comes back.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Reis?
Thank you, Mayor. And one final thing that I noticed on the procedural bylaw is item 27.6 reads, "No member shall change his vote without unanimous consent of all other members." Now, that when I read that, it reminded me of November 18th. If you will all recall, I asked at the end of that meeting if I could change my vote, and our CAO told me that you were unsure of if I could do that, and that you were going to get back to me and have it recorded in the minutes. And it was not recorded in the minutes, and you never got back to me. And as it turns out, I actually did have that right to change my vote, provided all of council gave unanimous consent that meeting. So I don't know what we want to do with that piece of information, but I did want to bring it to the attention of our CAO, the rest of council, and our and Lana.
Okay, thank you. Kalen?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Reis. My recollection of that discussion was during the break. You said that it wasn't necessary for us to look into it. It is true that we did not have the answer at our fingertips during the live stream portion of the meeting, but the reason it didn't come back is because my understanding is that during the break, you had indicated that that wasn't necessary for us to follow up on, but we are happy to follow up on that if that continues to be your wish.
Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it, because I did want my vote to be changed, and I know that that is going back in time, but there is a reason that I asked to have it changed. And my recollection, that night in closed session, there was a lot of discussions that took place, and I think that may have got lost in the shuffle, and it's nobody's fault. And I just want to make sure that going forward, that we are aware that council, any member can change their vote, provided there is unanimous consent. And I would like my vote on that matter recorded properly, please.
Kalen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think in order for us to follow up on that, we would just require as a prerequisite the unanimous vote from council, and then we can add that as an agenda item at a future meeting, if that's the wish, unless our municipal clerk has anything else to add procedurally.
Thank you. I do want to add that I do recall that that was noted in the minutes that the vote was changed.
Deputy Mayor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor. I did review the minutes last night and I did not see that in there. Okay. So maybe I missed something. I doubt it, but I will take your word for it.
I'm happy to investigate as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just so I get this clear then, you're going to look into that, Lana, and then you're going to bring that motion back to council that we can vote for unanimous consent to have that vote changed then.
That is correct. I will do that.
Is that fine then?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Maybe just a procedural question then for Lana, if I may. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. And I have two questions for you. Number one is that for procedure, then we need to have a public hearing for this to take place before we approve it.
A public hearing regarding the procedural bylaw?
That's correct.
That is not required, no.
Okay, I just understood it to be that we needed to have a public hearing for it in order to be carried through. My second question before I asked for a tabling motion, and that is just for your reference, 6.1 speaks to the second and fourth Mondays of every month for all business of council. Would that be something you want to keep, or would that be something that we need to amend to have every council meeting for all every 3 weeks with the exception of August?
That could certainly be reviewed at the organizational meeting or for any matter, any time for council, but it will be brought forward at the organizational meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, I'd move to table this item till the May 8th meeting, did you say?
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Councillor Chapman to table this discussion until our May 8th regular council meeting. Is there any questions, comments? I just want to confirm the date because I'm pretty sure it was May 20th.
The next council meeting is May 20th. That's after the long weekend, yes.
Okay, May 20th. Okay, thank you. Seeing there's no more questions, comments, I'll call the question on Councillor Chapman's motion. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to departmental reports, agenda item 9.1. We have our manager of capital projects, Mark Boltezar, presenting with some infrastructure project updates. Mark, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and good evening. I just have a presentation tonight that's just information only and no decisions required. So and questions from the community. We want to keep you guys updated in what we've been doing over the last probably about 6 months in completing a couple projects and what we have looking forward to going into 2025. We got some construction coming up here and want to keep you informed. So here's 10 projects that I'm going to be taking you through today. The first 5 on the left-hand side here are completely underway or completed. And then the 6 projects from 6 to 10 there, those are the 6 that are upcoming. Underway, we have Civic Plaza, the Land Lakes pedestrian crossing there, and our potable water reservoir and pump station, Malloy 2B, and Horsefly emergency spillway. Those are currently underway. And upcoming, we got the South Coldell regional stormwater management facility, phase 2 of our sanitary trunk main, Rehoboth pathway, our skate park, and Highway 845 and 30th Avenue. So I got some details on each one of those. So it's the Civic Plaza. So just south of the Civic building here, we got our parking lot and rink slab and our community living room. So for the most part, we had our grand opening in February of 2025. And there's a couple of remaining items that we still have to complete for this summer. Most notably is the ring slab drainage. So if you'll notice that the ring slab is holding a little bit of water, and we are currently assessing the feasibility of incorporating some of the geometric pattern that was originally intended into that ice slab, but it's very scope dependent on the work required by the contractor to resolve the existing drainage. It's very elevation. The tolerances are very, very slim. And so we are actually looking at doing some additional survey before we make a decision on how to rectify that. And so you will see some survey out there in the next couple of weeks and months, and to verify that we are making the correct decisions for that deficiency. Upcoming work too, we have the Yip family memorial plaque that will be going into the breezeway on the west side of Civic Plaza here, or on not Civic Plaza, but Civic, the Civic building here, and that will be looking to be installed in the spring here. And then ongoing, we have our bench and picnic table sponsorship. So far, we've had 3 generous donations for benches at $3,000 each, and we've had 1 picnic table being sponsored at $5,000. So in total, we've generated $14,000 of revenue, and we still have a remaining 11 benches and 3 picnic tables that are still available for sponsorship, and look forward to seeing some community input for that. The total budget for this project was $4,400,083. Currently, we are underneath that, and we're looking forward to coming back to council with some options on how to spend the remaining funds for that budget. Some options that we are looking to bring forward to you are a water feature, gazebos over the central fire pits, an outdoor Christmas tree, or allocating those funds and remain under budget for the project. So stay tuned for those presentations. Our Land Lakes Drive pedestrian crossing was completed late fall.
Mark, I'm just going to just stop you for a sec. As we're going through this, if there's any questions about any segment, let me know. Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to Mark. Just on that deficiency slab that they're going to look at, there's no cost to the town on that, is there?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor there. I'm under the impression that there is no cost as of right now. Until we get some further details on it, we are under the anticipation that no cost to the town on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no more questions, continue please, Mark.
Land Lakes Drive pedestrian crossing. So this was completed fall of 2025 for the substantial completion of the project. There is a couple of remaining items that you can still need to be done. These pictures were taken just before the dry land seed mix was placed. So it's actually a little bit further completed than what the pictures show here. But we do have some trees along the south boundaries planted. We do have some dry land seed mix that's not shown in the photos. We still have to complete some pathway lighting. That's to be completed by Fortis in this upcoming spring and summer. We're still waiting on some final approvals for those lightings, but we do anticipate them fairly quickly here. And then we also have the Highway 3 speed adjustment. So this was an item that was brought forward in 2025. There was a engineering study done along the Highway 3 corridor that recommended a consistent speed zone throughout Coaldale, and we were anticipating an outlay of this program at the same time as when we put the pathway into operational. into operation. But due to an internal procedure with Alberta Transportation, it did require administrative approval from the Minister of Transportation. So we are still awaiting that approval, but we do expect to see some action on that speed zone adjustment coming up here. So I have one more slide coming up on that following. So current budget for this one was $1,450,000. I'm pretty happy to project that our final completion was 1.2 million and 15,000 there. And so we are about 235 under budget for that project.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Mark. I appreciate all this that you're presenting to us. With regards to your map of the town of Coaldale and the speed zones that are being proposed, I appreciate the transition areas that are being shared here. My only concern will be on the east end there, where for the 70-kilometer stretch, and I would have possibly hoped that we would have extended the green zone right through to at least 11th Street or even past 8th Street. But that might be for a future consideration. I can possibly understand why the transition zone to 70 kilometers is where it is on the east side, mainly because the highway is wider in that stretch. But at the same time, I think with the amount of traffic that's being forecasted, I would just begin to work with Alberta Transportation to find out what they will do to extend that transition zone on the east end, particularly. I know that I had one particular resident in Coaldale who had asked me a number of years ago to extend 60 kilometers an hour past 11th Street, which would be the Dairy Queen intersection, and wanted it on the transition change on the east side of the Dairy Queen. But anyway, I just more of a point from my end for you. But thank you again.
Yeah, you bet. Just a little bit of note here on this is that this was recommended by the consultant, and they're more than happy to take any comments we have back and also look at it in the future as well. So if we do find that we are potentially having issues or growth within a certain area, it's not like this is going to be set in stone. They are open to potentially looking at new traffic counts once we do have it and adjusting as well. So our potable water reservoir and pump station, currently it's under construction, and so far we've completed a lot of concrete work. You'll notice that the floor and the walls are poured, and we also have the columns that will support the roof of it in place. We currently have some sealing and crack filling happening before the roof actually gets placed on that. So that is ongoing, and upcoming, we're looking at placing that roof probably in May. And then some of the biggest things to impact that area is that the sanitary trunk main that starts from 26th Street and extends west to 30th Street. That will be occurring in July and August of 2025 here. And that's to be completed once Prairie Winds Secondary is out of summer, and trying to limit the traffic impacts for that disruption. So that is on schedule and to be completed this summer. Further upcoming is we do have to tie into our city supply line, and that's slated to be done in October. The precast building, so once the roof of the reservoir goes on, we still have to do the pump station, and that's the further to the south. There's a pump station that's going to be going up. We're going to be hoping to start that in July, and we're still on completion for December of 2025. The total,
Just before you move on through to our CAO, before they put the roof on this water reservoir, I'd like to arrange a tour for council to go in there and see what that really is like size-wise inside. So I'll leave that up to you to try and get that organized for us. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
okay. Total approved
1
budget.
second, Councillor Chapman has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mark, just a quick question. Sanitary trunk main installation is, you have 18th Avenue, is that correct? Or is it supposed to be 16th Avenue?
Yeah, so this is the downstream sanitary trunk main. So this is included in this project budget. So we have 13 million for the reservoir,
Right.
and that includes a extension to the sanitary trunk main downstream of the school. So that would be along 18th Avenue from 26th Street to 30th. And that has been budgeted and approved for this 13 million. So when we talk about the sanitary trunk phase 2 later on, it's a different segment that's further upstream. So
Thank you. I thought maybe that might have been a typo.
yeah. Yeah, so here's some photos of our progress. Top left corner, that's when we dug the hole in November. And then we started pouring the bottom. And then this is the bigger picture here is taken from, I think, in March there. We actually have the columns and we're about ready to get the lid on. So it's coming along quite well. Here's a rendering of what the pump station will actually look like. So this is just the front portion of it. The area that's kind of grass behind it is the soil and the grass that will go over top of the majority of the actual reservoir structure. So Malloy 2B, we just completed, I would say, last couple of weeks here. So this is a stormwater project that will tie in Cottonwood Storm Pond, and it will take a 1,200 millimeter diameter storm pipe from Cottonwood over to our raw water reservoirs to increase the town's capacity of over 510,000 cubic meters of 540,000 cubic meters of storage, and we have completed majority of the project. You've noticed that the outlet structures have been placed, the intercell piping between the reservoirs have been put in. We've also done the grubbing of the trees in the reservoir that have grown over the last decade, I would say. Upcoming schedule, I was actually quite happy to see that we did get the asphalt patching on 31st Avenue between Seasons and Fieldstone completed last Thursday, as well as the Cottonwood asphalt that needed to be restored. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule there. And the only thing remaining on Malloy 2B is a 11th Street pump station. So that is a pump station that discharges directly to the South Coldell drain right now. And we are looking at taking and routing that into our raw water reservoirs as well. So total budget on this one was $4,846,000. And the town's contribution, because it is a grant-funded project as well as a tri-party with the SMRD and county, the town's approved contribution was $202,000. We're happy to report that the projected project spending is $4,550,000, and that would take the town's projected contribution down to about half, about $103,000. Here's an overview of the actual pipeline alignment. On the left here, you see Cottonwood and the future home of the South Coldell Regional Stormwater Management Facility that will tie into this complex. They both outlet into this 1,200 diameter pipeline that extends east and connects into the raw water reservoirs.
Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn, through to Mark. So, Mark, have they got all the level controls between the reservoirs and Cottonwood in place in the new structures? Like, what are they using to control the levels? Gate valves or what's in there?
Yeah, actually it's quite an elegant solution. So all the elevations for the levels are set by the elevations of the pipe. So as soon as we installed the pipe, that's exactly the elevation of what the pond should be set at. And so there is gate valves in there, but they're only for operational. So if we need to isolate a pond, the gate valves are there to close and isolate. They're not necessarily there to like a check structure where you can bring that level up and down. We looked at the operating level of what Cottonwood should be at, and it should roughly be around the same elevation throughout the year with some minor fluctuations. So,
Thank you.
And then one question before you move on for myself. The chain link fencing that goes around those storm ponds, those decommissioned water reservoirs, I should say, are we going to do that in-house, or is that part of the contract?
yeah, it's part of the contract. And I actually just got word from one of our parks employees, and I think it was completed, I think either yesterday or today. So we're not redoing it, but just replacing the stuff that we took down.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to Mark, I got one question. In the old reservoirs, there was a pump station that used to come off the canal that they used to bring the level up on them reservoirs. Is that going to be removed, that concrete structure, or at least closed in?
The concrete structure is will be left, but the outlet that used to divert water from the South Coldell has been cut off, decommissioned, and capped. So there isn't a connection point into the reservoir anymore, but the structure that's on the north bank will remain.
I'm just looking for if it was going to be closed in, because it is kind of a hazard. Like people walk up there, and I've seen people around there, and it's just basically a deep vault that's sitting there, and I just wondered if it was going to be closed or in so nobody can access it.
Yeah. I have been out there. It does have a lid on it, but we can definitely look into making sure that it is secure and a safety consideration for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
A couple more points on Malloy 2B is that you'll notice that Cottonwood is quite a bit lower here. And you'll expect to see that getting filled up in the next couple of weeks. So if you do get any questions on that, there is water coming, just we're waiting on Mother Nature. Horsefly Regional Emergency Spillway. So this is a regional project spearheaded by the MD of Tabor, and it's to take water outside of, divert water from SMRID works and return water to the Old Man River in emergency situations. And so this is a large regional project with multiple project partners. Phase 1 was completed in spring of 2024. Phase 3, they did things a little bit different here. Here they skipped along. They did phase 3 next. That was completed April 24th of 2025. And phase 2 is the one that is currently underway. But the biggest takeaway here is that the cost estimates due to the CP rail crossing and ACO are starting to become a little bit more significantly higher than initially anticipated. And as a result, the design team is looking at exploring alternative solutions right now. So you'll probably hear a little bit more updates as we get them on phase 2. To date, we've had the town's contribution for this project is slated at $661,533, and to date, we've spent $456,607 has been paid to the MD of Tabor. Total project estimate is $61 million, and right now I think that includes a $5 million shortfall. So that's just kind of gives you how much we are short right now, and we're still trying to find funding shortfalls and how we're going to make up that shortfall. It's still undetermined at this point. Here's some photos of Horsefly. You can see some of the structures turnouts from the SMRD canal getting placed, as well as some crossings, Township 9-1, quite a bit of drainage works and canal works currently underway, completed and currently underway. Okay, so that takes us to what's coming up in what's completed versus what's coming up here. So in 2025, we're pretty excited to bring you on board with some good news on our South Coaldale Regional Stormwater Management Facility. So a couple slides back, I presented on Malloy 2B. So this is just south of Cottonwood. We're going to be digging a new stormwater management facility. It's a pond that will hold about 100,000 cubes of stormwater. And its majority is from a stormwater that comes north from the county of Lethbridge. And it's going to work in tandem with Cottonwood as they are connected. And it will outlet through the Malloy 2B pipeline and then to our raw water reservoirs for further storage. So we recently just closed the tender. We had 6 bidders on this project. They ranged in pricing from about 2.6 million to about 8 million. So quite a spread there, but we were very happy to see this because our total project budget was about 5,326,000. And the projected costs are down to 3,560,000. So that has taken down our anticipated town contribution from 572 to 395,000. We're anticipating to commence this in the upcoming weeks here. So you'll see quite a bit of activity south of 845, and we're hoping to be complete by October 30th of 2026. So it'll be about 2 years of construction. Is the maximum. If we do get a construction or a contractor with a more aggressive timeline, we could see that moved up. But the maximum we're looking to get this constructed is October 30th, 2026. Here's the design of that facility. So you'll notice that there is quite a bit of kind of some fancy channeling here. You'll notice that you won't actually see that. So that's actually underneath the surface of the water, and that's to try and facilitate some sedimentation dropout of the stormwater, so that a lot of it is directed to the southwest corner. A lot of the sediment drops out, and then it outlets in the northeast. So a lot of this you won't see, but here's a kind of a design of what it's going to look like. And then we have a driving bank around the outside. It will be just gravel to start, and we have some mulch beds going on the east and north side.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. On this particular item, is it going to be also fenced? Do you know, or is it going to be just open?
Yeah, this one would be similar, synonymous to almost Cottonwood. So you have the no fencing. There's potential for future development around this, so we're not looking at doing any sort of chain link fencing or additional fencing around this.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And just a question from myself. There's residents wondering what's going on that portion. And there was some discussion once, and I'll invite the CAO to participate as well here, about doing a groundbreaking ceremony for this with all our partners for this one. Is there any opportunity to do that so that we can get John to do a press release and get the information out on what this is going to be?
We can certainly do a groundbreaking. We did turn some rocks over, and the consensus is, could we just do a press release instead that explains it and put up a billboard? But they weren't opposed to doing an in-person groundbreaking ceremony. So if that is the desire, we would have to lead and organize and then send out the invites, and then whoever responds. But the feedback that we received is that with everything else going on, a kind of a billboard sign that explains what this is and why, along with the press release, was sufficient in the opinions of the other partners.
And that meets the granting requirements?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
In the granting requirement, we would have to obtain a statement from the province and our MLA about the funding that they're contributing, but we don't have to do an in-person event to make that acknowledgement. So
Okay.
it's what would our preference be?
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, this is a good outline of what the phase 2 of the sanitary trunk main. So previously Kyle was here presenting on how we're going to fund. This is the project that he was referring to, the 5.1 million. And currently, this is the one where we have the open house scheduled for May 7th. So originally this was identified in the town's infrastructure master plan, and it involves upsizing the sanitary main along Highway 845 and 16th Avenue. Between E45 and 23rd Street. And so the 5.1 million includes this entire project. When we came to you with that budget number, our consultants figured that's what the whole portion would be. And due to the scale of this project, we decided to break it up into 2 different construction seasons, just due to the traffic impacts that we were forecasting. And so the 2025 phase is for this summer to try and time that when it's a little bit less busy in that area, and the 2026 phase, which includes 16th Avenue. So you can see the split of what's going to be happening when, and the project scope includes a new sanitary alignment along the west side of Highway 845. And with that, we are looking at also doing a pathway that would connect all the way from 16th Avenue and 23rd Street on the north side of 16th Avenue and the west side of Highway 845 that will eventually tie into the Rehoboth pathway. And so that's part of the scope of work of this project, as well as the full road reconstruction of 16th Avenue. So it's a fairly large scope of work for 16th Avenue. And as well as the pathway work that will be a multi-use trail that connects South Coaldale. So we could eventually have a new pathway that would eventually go from Land O'Lakes pedestrian crossing all the way to Rehoboth through our existing pathway network by adding these 2 segments here. So the phase 1 portion of it through the Highway 845 on the west side, 5 bids were received, ranging from about 1 million to about 4 million. They came in quite under our anticipated budget because we designed it so that we didn't have to take out a laneway of 845. So we're actually going to be west of 845, and there'll be no disruptions to the traffic except for the tie-in at 16th Avenue. So that actually, by not having to redo the roadway, the asphalt, that actually kept our costs down. And so our projected costs for the Highway 845 are 1,250,000, which then will leave 3,850,000 for the phase 2, which would be the 16th Avenue portion. So we feel like administratively we're sitting quite well there, and our budget is looking fairly healthy for upcoming projects there, the 16th Avenue.
Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mark, the town of Coaldale's welcome sign on that stretch there, it'll probably come down permanently then, or
yeah,
anticipate maybe a good time for us to relocate it to a new location further out?
Yeah, the welcome to Coaldale signage is right in the new sanitary alignment there. So we are looking at lifting that sign up and moving it in the interim. Whether you decide to place it back in its existing condition, wait to place it in a different location closer to a boundary of Coaldale as we grow and we expand, can be a topic for discussion. So
yeah, I'd look forward to that conversation another time. And second to that, Mayor, with both of these projects, 16th Avenue and 845, you'll have project signs that will indicate both funding and timelines, maybe, so that the public that are going to be anticipating being disrupted know that there's a major project coming in 25 and in 26. Is that, you see that happening?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the May 7th open house coming up here. That was, I believe, advertised on our social media and mail outs to the existing residents in the vicinity of the project to kind of give them a heads up of this is happening. There's no requirement for a large sign just due to the grant funding. A lot of the time signage is usually a requirement of grants. This one, to date, we don't have grant funding, but that could change over the next a little while. So I don't anticipate a large sign, but we do anticipate using our avenues of advertising, social media, letters to let people know.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Continue, please, Mark.
Other main things I wanted to point out on this sanitary trunk main is that the pathway for the 840 phase 1 will be a gravel standard until spring of 2026, and that's just due to settlement. We are constructing that pathway right over top of the sanitary main, and so you'll see that being a gravel pathway for 2025. Asphalt will come in 2026, and then when we do the 16th Avenue section, that portion will be the final piece that will connect it all with asphalt. So you might get some questions on that. And then the final project we have is, oh, we got a couple more here.
Deputy Mayor Reis has a question.
Thanks, Mayor. Through to Mark. Are you guys going to put up a fence to keep the geese on the side of the road there?
Yeah, we are looking into that currently. We do have a biologist consultant right now to look into the requirements of what that fence would look like, as well as trying to coordinate that with our contract. So we don't want to put something up as well right now and then have that be right in the way of our contract. So we're trying to work with the contractor to get the information from them of how much they need, plus also working with our biologist to determine the length, the amount of holes that it has to have for the stuff like that. So we are looking into that, but I don't have an exact answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, just from my own sake, there's a little bit of urgency on that because they're going to be hatching here right away. And we had lots of issues with that last year.
Okay.
And I don't want to see that happening like a week before we start talking about putting a fence in.
Yep. So this project was originally suggested by a concerned citizen. Council identified the improvement of active transportation to Rehoboth as a priority. As a result, we've come up with this paved pathway project during our 2023 budget deliberations. And so we've actually designed the entire pathway. We've gotten our pricing back from contractors. And this would be 430 meters of asphalt pathway extension that would tie into our sanitary trunk main pathway extension. And it would go along the west side of 21st Street as shown here, and would tie in to Rehoboth, the Garden Center, through this in the southwest, and then head towards Highway 3 as shown in the photo here. Again, this is the tail end of the piece of the larger goal of the pathway extension, and it would provide a node at the furthest to extend. And if we ever wanted to expand east along 12th Avenue, this would be the place to pick it up and continue it east along 12th Avenue of any future expansion. Based on feedback as well, we also wanted to build a concrete crossing at the Gem of the West as well. We've had quite a bit of feedback that involved rainfall events in the gravel road of 21st Street. And if there's something activity going on at the cemetery, that their dress stuff gets kind of a little bit muddy. So with the Gem of the West being asphalt, this raised concrete crossing would withstand up to traffic, as well as keep people outside of the gravel roadway of 21st Street. The approved project budget for the Rehoboth pathway was $250,000. Of the bids we've gotten, McNally Contractors was awarded the contract with the contract value of $232,000.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, getting into the weeds a little bit here, but I like the plan here. And my only two questions are, one is, would you be able to asphalt that full section before the rest is done? And my second question to you would be with regards to the width of the sidewalk and laneway along 21st Street. There's an awful lot of parking that goes on there, and so I don't know if you need to have regular our community policing person identify as to angle parking versus parallel or on one side like we do downtown, or so just thoughts that I have there.
Sure. Yeah. To answer the first question, this portion will be paved immediately. So we're looking at gravel section through the Highway 845 section. This contract is to put the asphalt down this year. We don't have the same requirement of a large excavation underneath it, so we feel very confident that we can do this year. So we are expecting an asphalt finish for this. As for your second question there, remind me what it was again.
Yes, the parking issue there. Just the amount of width there that would allow for either angle parking on both sides or just on one side with the sidewalk coming in.
Right. With this project, we are placing this pathway so that we can continue to utilize the existing parking. It's again, it's not painted on the gravel because it's hard to physically do that, but if there is any parking issues, I think we would have to work with our CPOs to try and address that at this time until we upgrade 21st Street. Then that's when asphalt lines, and that's probably a little bit down the road. So hopefully we can clean that up as time progresses. Okay, and last thing to note on this one is that we're hoping to get this one complete by September of this year. Skate park. So this one, I think we just had a construction meeting today, kickoff meeting. So very exciting is that this one has been led by the Kinsmen. The town of Coaldale has been supporting as project management. And the goal is to transform the skate park into more of a modern all-wheeled facility. And that's a little bit more accessible and appealing to all the different users and age groups that you see in that realm. The project scope of this one includes removing the existing skate park, including the rails, pyramids, and quarter pipe, and installing a new style skate with their features that they have. We do have a design build consultant on this one, and it's New Line, and they have been working with extensively with our working group, which includes several members of our public, and they've been meeting regularly to go over the design and take input into the design of the skate park. In parallel with the Kinsmen, the Kinets have also contributed a portion of this project by being involved with doing the playground and revitalizing the basketball court. So the Kinsmen are doing more of the skate park, with the Kinets doing more of the playground and the basketball courts. The budget funding for this one is broken down into $400,000 contributed from the town of Coaldale, $400,000 from the Kinsman, 400,000 from the Community Facility Enhancement Program in the large stream from received by the Kinsman, and 120,000 from the same program in the small stream that was received by the Kinets. So the total project comes to project budget comes to $1.3 million there. Construction is planned to commence in the coming weeks, and we are expected to be completed end of summer 2025. Here's a design of the skate park portion of it. You'll notice that a lot of the kind of the kind of tan areas, those are kind of more the features that you see there for skate parks. Here's a rendering of the playground to be going in with the Kinets. Any questions? Okay, last one is Highway 845 and 30th Avenue. So this is 2021. There was a traffic impact assessment completed by Watt Consulting, and this was for our south east area between Highway 845 and the quads. As this area gets developed, there's more and more traffic coming onto 30th Avenue, and it's driven by the requirement to meet Alberta's transportation standards when you're coming onto Highway 845. And so what this is a realignment of the center lines with Cottonwood subdivision on the west side of the highway. And it will show the center lines being lined up so that they're aligned. And then also radius improvements on the east side of the intersection. West side would remain unchanged. And then we also have some tapering just to improve safety of that intersection coming off the 845. The total approved project for this one is $400,000. And in late 2024, the developer of Canal Crossings has learned that Alberta Transportation required this update. So they completed an update to their TIA in early 2025, and the same recommendation was brought forth. So we are looking at chiming this one for this year, but it is likely going to be slated late summer 2025 or spring of 2026, just based on how that development is playing out. So more news on the timing of this one to come. And then just one quick note is just on this photo here. It does show a median. I just wanted to point out that we will not be placing a median there. It will just be an actual painted line, just because I know you guys are very detailed orientated. So that's one change I just wanted to point out.
Deputy Mayor Reis.
Thanks, Mayor. Through to Mark. So I see here that it cuts off some of the property on some of these houses here. Do we have to pay those people for that property to widen that road, or do we have to let them know or anything like that?
It shouldn't actually impact their property. So it's hard to see, but there's a really faint line in gray, and it's actually delineates the property line from the right of way. And so that roadway will actually be fully on town's right of way, so we don't have to acquire any property along there. However, I do want to point out that their driveways there is that boulevard area where driveways do match up to the roadway, and we will have to do some remediation to driveways along that. So they will be impacted, but the roadway will not have to acquire land.
One further question regarding this project. Is there provisions to put a flashing pedestrian crossing in there, or is that just going to be a zebra or a standard crosswalk?
There's no provisions for a flashing crossing, but there's not saying that we can look further into it. So,
because with the work that's going to be taking place on 17th with Canal Crossing, A lot of the kids that go to St. Joe's hopefully would take the pathway along the canal, but kids will be kids.
Right.
Any other questions? Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to Mark. I got one question. So now that the Malloy 2B is completed, there will be no more runoff water being pumped down there in front of them houses. Or who's responsible to look after that now? Like the drainage, make sure it's maintained. Is that the town's responsibility?
Yeah, the South Coldell drain used to get pumped through there. We don't anticipate that being the normal operating procedure going forward because of Malloy 2B. The culverts and the drain is still on Town of Coldell right of way, so we do anticipate still having to maintain that because it's still used for the drainage in the local area, even though some of the major might not be routed through there. So we do have to maintain those culverts, and they still have to flow, even though Malloy 2B is complete.
Okay, thank you.
So that's it for your presentation, Mark. I'll just open it up. Any further questions, comments? So give lots of thanks to your team. Councillor Avery has a question. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. That intersection.
Okay, yeah.
That's by the canal. That particular one you're talking about. Yes. Okay, thank you. So back to my comment, make sure you pass on to your entire team. Like there's a lot of work. This is one of my favorite presentations because it shows a lot of positive things happening in our community. So seeing no more questions, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council receive the infrastructure update as information? Councillor Pickering makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thanks again, Mark. Moving on to information items. 12.1, we have the board meeting minutes from SEWA from February 28th, 2025. 12.2, we have the Mayor Van Rijn report by MLA Grant Hunter. 12.3, we have the Chinook Arch Library Board, the 2024 impact report, and audited financial statements. Any questions on any of those items? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe through to council, just more of an informative on SEWA. On Friday, we had a board meeting, and so it's just sort of a follow up from a previous meeting a month ago, and I've requested that SEWA come and make a presentation to council on some of the items for action that they're looking at doing for a sub-regional location in our area. So I've forwarded that on.
Thank you. And then our CAO is looking into that as well. We spoke about that last week. Any other questions on those three line items? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain, make a motion that council receive items 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3 as information? Councillor Chapman makes that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. So that completes the open portion of the meeting. I will require a motion that council move into closed session at 6:44 p.m. in accordance with section 197-4-B of the Municipal Government Act to discuss matters exempt from disclosure for items 13.1 and 13.2, subject to section 16, business interests of a third party, and section 25, economic and other interests of a public body, and item 13.2, subject to section 23, local public body confidences, and section 24, advice from officials. Who cares to make that motion? Deputy Mayor Reis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you.